Two big names could be set to return to WWE television in the very near future. WWE asks its fans, does it want to have a ranking system in WWE similar to that in AEW? Becky Lynch is returning to Monday Night Raw tonight, and after his knockout victory this past weekend, could Tyson Fury be about to return to WWE? All this and more in today's WWE news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE today. So let's start off talking about some returns. Two of them could be happening on Monday Night Raw fairly soon. One is Mustafa Ali, the other is Asuka. Let's start off with Ali, because Ali might be making his return to WWE television sooner rather than later. According to Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, as of this past weekend, possible return to WWE television for Mustafa Ali was being discussed. There was reportedly even a pitch made for him to appear this Monday tonight on Raw. Now, of course, Ali hasn't been seen on WWE television in quite a while. He last wrestled on the October 29, 2021 edition of SmackDown on Fox, losing to Drew McIntyre. He took some time off for paternity leave last November and welcomed his third child later that month. It was reported that Ali actually only asked for one show off for the paternity leave. However, we haven't seen him since. Now, Ali himself had announced in January that he had asked for his release from WWE. It was reported soon after that the promotion would not be granting his release. Now, before I give you my opinion on that news, we'll talk about Asuka as well, because there are imminent plans for Asuka to return to Monday Night Raw, again, according to Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp. Now, according to the report, as of this past weekend, once again, there is plan for Asuka to enter at least a short-term program with Becky Lynch. Asuka's return could be as soon as this week's Raw. Again, we're going to talk about Becky Lynch in a second, but we do know that Becky Lynch is going to be returning to Raw tonight on the USA Network, so we could see Asuka's return as well. It was also noted that there have been numerous pitches from both talent and creative about how to bring her back. In February, WWE officials reportedly told Fightful that they expected her to be back in the spring and that they were looking forward to her return. Now, she has not appeared on any WWE programming since Money in the Bank 2021 back in July of that year. Her match at Money in the Bank 2021 was the only time she competed in front of a full crowd since March of 2020. So let's start off talking about Ali. The Ali one probably is more interesting. I think a lot of people would assume that Asuka was going to be back sooner rather than later. She's been out for a while. There's been so many conflicting reports about what is her injury status. Is she going to be coming back on SmackDown or Raw? But the general feeling is she is going to be back. And as time goes on and on, I know people get worried because it's WWE and people get released and all that kind of stuff. WWE knows the value in Asuka. If they didn't prior to the pandemic, they certainly did during the pandemic, because she, along with maybe Sasha Banks and Bayley, carried the WWE Women's Division throughout that whole Thunderdome Performance Center era. That was Asuka's era, okay? Especially on Monday Night Raw. She really, really carried that brand and was arguably at some of her most entertaining best when there was nobody there. She was one of the people that realized how to ramp up that entertainment factor with nobody being in attendance. So WWE absolutely knows the value of Asuka. So I don't think that's any surprise that she would be coming back. I think it makes sense for her to be in a feud with Becky Lynch upon her return, because Becky Lynch is such a big star. She needs something to do, and she's not going to be involved in the Raw Women's Championship picture, because we know that involves Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville right now on Monday Night Raw. Yes, they're going to have that match tonight on Raw. I'm not positive we're going to see a clean outcome or anything like that, because I feel they'll probably shift it to having it at WrestleMania Backlash. We're either going to see a non-finish, or maybe we do see a quick finish or something like that, and Sonya Deville's going to abuse her power even more to giving herself yet another match, and this time it'll be at WrestleMania Backlash, maybe with a stipulation. That's how I see that one going. We know Becky Lynch is returning, and again, I think Asuka interrupts, and that sets up the program between them two, and they go off and do their thing. My only concern about that would be that we could be looking at a situation where Asuka returns after nearly a year out, and she's gone straight into a program with Becky Lynch. Great. But who's going to win that feud? Who's going to win that matches? Just after Becky Lynch has lost at WrestleMania, is she going to put over Asuka again? I'm not sure. So that would be my concern with that one. The Mustafa Ali one, it is very surprising, because the general consensus was, wasn't it? And according to the previous reports, that he had significant time left on his contract, but he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be at WrestleMania when he was asked. He was like, I don't want to be in WWE. I don't want to be on WWE television. I have no interest in going back. I asked for my release. They said no. I have a contract. Maybe it's for a year, 2 years. I'll sit it out. If that's what I have to do, I'll sit it out because I have no interest in going back. Now, there had been reports about a character that he wanted to do being turned down. Remember when we saw that vignette that he released on his own social media page that a lot of people were talking about, going, that's quite interesting. That could be quite an interesting character for Mustafa Ali to do, and it got turned down, and he wasn't happy with that. Reportedly then, Vince McMahon, WWE Chairman and CEO, had said to him, we want you to be this character. We don't know what it was, but by all accounts, Mustafa Ali was very offended by that, and I think when you hear those reports, your mind does tend to make jumps, but they're not difficult jumps to make, shall we say that? And I don't mean to be cryptic there, but you kind of get what I'm sort of jumping at. And if that is the case, then he has every right to be unhappy and say, no, I'll go home. So I'm surprised to hear that there are discussions for him to be brought back. Look, WWE, and this is the thing, WWE Creative could say to him, maybe you could come back and, or WWE Creative might discuss if there could be something for him to come back, but also Mustafa Ali has to want to do it as well. Unless he's had a change of heart about the character, unless Vince McMahon's had a change of heart and wants to do what Mustafa Ali wanted to do, there has to be some kind of compromise met. I know obviously people will say money talks, and it does. That's also a good point too, but that is quite a surprising one. And it would make me wonder, especially if I was Mustafa Ali, I would be saying, what's changed? What's changed between now and last year or earlier this year, right? What's changed? What creative has changed? And maybe the creative has changed, and maybe he's happy with the creative. But given the bad creative this guy has been given over the course of the last couple of years, whether it's retribution, whether it's whatever, I think he has a right to be hesitant. So that's quite a curious one. Let's talk about this recent WWE survey that went out asking about a ranking system in WWE. Now, last weekend, WWE sent out a survey to select members of the WWE universe. And the questions, and I've received some of these surveys before, but the questions sometimes can give a bit of a glimpse into what the company is considering, or they just want to have some feedback for their marketing, whatever it may be. Now, the notable items covered in the survey via PW Insider were how many times a month do you watch Raw, SmackDown, and NXT? Again, these are kind of for business meetings, all that kind of stuff. How often do you attend live events and watch premium events? Are you interested in NFTs? Are fans interested in a wrestler ranking system? Are fans interested in, quote, real behind-the-scenes workings at WWE? And which social media platforms do fans follow on WWE? So, again, some people can go a bit crazy over these surveys, going, oh, this is what they're considering and all that kind of stuff. Look, sometimes it doesn't really mean anything. Sometimes it's just, again, a marketing tool. Sometimes I don't know how often these surveys actually evolve into creative, anything like that, to be honest. I really don't. You've got Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon running creative. They think they know better than the audience several times, so I wouldn't get too much into that. Do I think that they care if fans are interested in NFTs and stuff like that? Absolutely, because that's how they can make money. When it comes to, the ranking system, WWE did have a ranking system. Not that it involved storyline, but they did have a ranking system on their website, the Power 25. If you played the old SmackDown versus Raw games, that was involved in that too, the Power 25. Not that, again, it had any, impact on creative or anything like that. So I don't think you should get too excited about that or anything like that. I do find it interesting that they're saying, are fans interested in real behind-the-scenes workings at WWE? Of course they are. That's why you've got so many documentaries on the WWE Network or Peacock about the behind-the-scenes workings. That's why you have Day Of documentaries and WWE 24 documentaries. I think they know that by now. So let's talk about Becky Lynch. As I spoke about earlier on, Becky Lynch is going to be returning to Raw tonight. It's the first time we're going to see her on WWE television since she lost the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania 38 earlier this month. Again, they're trying to hype up that she's going to be going straight after the Raw Women's Championship. I don't think so. Again, I think they're going to shoot that segment with her and Asuka, so that's certainly going to be interesting to see. Tyson Fury, of course, retained his boxing heavyweight championship at the World, the WBC heavyweight title, defeating Dillian White at Wembley on Saturday night. Now, during Tyson Fury's post-fight press conference, he revealed that fans shouldn't rule him out of fighting in WWE again. He said, quote, "Don't rule me out fighting there," revealed Fury. "You might see me at SummerSlam. I have to speak to Vince and the boys to maybe make this happen. I know that Drew McIntyre has been saying a lot of things about me. I'll have to knock him out. I'd love to be at Cardiff, back at the center stage in the UK, especially for wrestling. I enjoyed it last time in Saudi Arabia. It was fantastic. To come here and do it would be phenomenal. We're definitely going to make a bit of contact to see if we can make that SummerSlam thing a reality." Again, of course, Tyson Fury has wrestled before for WWE. He made his in-ring debut at Crown Jewel back in October 2019, defeating Braun Strowman via countout. I've said several times before, I know Fury's saying stuff about SummerSlam and all that kind of stuff. At this point, I would actually be quite surprised if he didn't appear or wrestle at that stadium show in Cardiff, especially after his victory at the weekend. There were big plans for Tyson Fury prior to the pandemic. Again, he wrestled at Crown Jewel in 2019. I believe, as far as he says, there were plans for him to be at WrestleMania the following year. That fabled WrestleMania 36 that was meant to take place in Raymond James Stadium. That, of course, didn't because of the pandemic. I think there were plans for him to appear there. There were rumors about him winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale or something of that nature. So, absolutely, there were plans for him. There were plans for him that year as well to be a part of this UK Stadium show, probably in a match against Drew McIntyre, who at the time would have been the WWE champion. So, WWE and Tyson Fury have a great relationship. As Fury remains undefeated and continues winning major boxing events, and is still the world heavyweight champion in boxing. Whilst not the undisputed, of course, because you've got Usyk, but he's the lineal heavyweight champion. WWE loves that. So I would be really surprised if he wasn't at the UK Stadium show. SummerSlam might be a bit of a reach, but he might appear at SummerSlam maybe to set up that Stadium show, because, of course, the Stadium show in the UK is the following month. That's in September. And SummerSlam is actually in late July. So we could maybe see an appearance at SummerSlam, which could then maybe lead to something happening at that UK Stadium show. But I would be really, really, really surprised if he's not involved in that, because I think that's probably always been the plan. I think them booking that show, it would sell out anyway. Even if they put a terrible card on, that show will sell out just because of how hungry we are for pro wrestling over here. But I would be shocked if they don't do a show that big and they don't have Tyson Fury on it. Whether you like him or not, whether you like outside people coming into pro wrestling, I would be very, very surprised if Fury wasn't on that show. Finally, there's been a lot of people talking about Bret Hart recently, because FTR, of course, keep referencing them. There are rumors about Bret possibly coming in to manage FTR in AEW. Of course, you've got the Owen Hart Cup Memorial Tournament as well going on, and people thought, is Bret Hart going to be a part of that? There have been rumors on AEW working with WWE Hall of Famer Bret Hart again, but a new report notes that AEW officials are under the impression that the Hitman has signed a new WWE contract. Now, Hart will be in the corner of AAA and Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions FTR for the big-time wrestling promotion on June 10. Now, FTR will be going up against AEW's Brian Pillman Jr. and Brock Anderson, who will have Arn Anderson in their corner. Now, a lot of people thought, that's strange. Why isn't that happening in AEW, considering all of these hints we've heard? The Wrestling Observer is reporting that this match is happening at an indie event and not an AEW event, because AEW officials are of the belief that Hart has quietly signed a lucrative WWE contract, which would prevent him from working on AEW shows. However, Hart is allowed to work indie events, and that loophole is allowing this battle of AEW tag teams with Hart's involvement. Now, Hart signing a WWE contract will also keep him from being involved for the presentation of the Owen Hart Foundation men's and women's tournaments, which will officially kick off next month and wrap up at Double or Nothing on May 29 in Las Vegas. Of course, Owen Hart's widow, Dr. Martha Hart, is scheduled to appear live and present the winners with their trophy. Now, Hart said that he was never asked about being at the presentation of the Owen Cup trophy, according to The Observer, which isn't really a big surprise considering the issues between Bret and Martha over the years. I saw this dividing opinion, it must be said. How petty is it from WWE that they would sign Bret to a lucrative contract just to stop him working with AEW and all that kind of stuff? Well, look, the way I look at it as if Bret Hart at his age, I think he's 65 or something like that, can get a big money contract for essentially sitting at home, and WWE is willing to pay him to sit at home at his age to not go to AEW. Good for him. Good for him. And again, having Bret Hart with FTR would be great. Of course it would, and I'm sure AEW would want that. But in Bret Hart's mind, he's the only one that can know if he could even do that. He might be thinking, look, I know it's once a week, but I don't want to travel. You know, they're going to pay me to sit at home, and then occasionally I'll come out and do an indie event. Good for him. And people can say it's petty by WWE. It's also WWE, you know, it's competition. I'm tired of this AEW versus WWE and all this kind of stuff. I'm over it. I really am. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestle News 365, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.